Good evening, folks. Thanks for joining. My name is Musa. I am the program manager with Concourse Federal Group, the team here supporting the West Los Angeles team in implementing the draft master plan. In compliance with the National Environmental Policy Act, known as NEPA, and the California Environmental Quality Act, known as CEQA, the United States Department of Veterans Affairs, or VA, is holding scoping meetings for the West Los Angeles campus Draft Master Plan, Environmental Impact Statement, and Environmental Impact Report. For this presentation, we will refer to the Environmental Impact Statement and Environmental Impact Report as an EIS. These scoping meetings are designed to inform the public about the proposed EIS, describe the proposed action, identify project alternatives, present the project timeline, and solicit comments on environmental considerations related to the development of an EIS. The anticipated audience for this EIS includes veterans, veteran service organizations, historic and cultural resource groups, local and state government agencies, and the surrounding community. VA intends for these scoping meetings to be informative, with a formal presentation followed by an open forum public comment period. We are hosting 3 scoping meetings over 3 days, with the intent of reaching the broadest audience. Each scoping meeting will follow the same format and contain identical content with the exception of the public comments. Tonight's meeting is our second meeting. For those of you interested in providing a verbal comment, please ensure you obtained a ticket from the welcome table when you walked in. The tickets designate the sequencing for providing verbal comments. The exhibit area, located in the atrium when you first walked in, includes posters, where attendees can review information regarding the West Los Angeles Draft Master Plan EIS. Additionally, this area hosts subject matter experts from the Veterans Benefits Administration, Community Employment and Reintegration Services, and others. Please make your way to those tables for any questions or comments not relating to the Draft Master Plan EIS. For individuals who prefer to submit a written comment, we have set up a designated comment area in the atrium. Please head there at any time during the presentation and fill out a comment card. Following a brief presentation, this meeting will conclude with an open forum comment period where attendees can provide verbal comment on considerations for the EIS in front of other community members. The community is encouraged to submit comments for consideration in the EIS. The public comment period for scoping will conclude on Tuesday, June 30th, 2017. Comments can be provided in several ways. Public comments can be shared during the scoping meeting, either verbally or via written comment card. Paper mail comments can be mailed to the address on the screen. Or you can email your comments to vhagla-masterplan@va.gov. Comment cards are available in the exhibit area and contain the mailing address as well as the email address for submitting comments. This information provided on the screen will also be posted on the West Los Angeles Draft Master Plan website. Along those same lines, if you're interested in learning more information about the Draft Master Plan, please visit the project website at www.losangeles.va.gov/masterplan. All scoping comments will be incorporated into a summary scoping report for review, evaluation, and consideration by VA. All comments, whether received once or in duplicate, via email, letter, or in person, will receive the same level of review, evaluation, and consideration. Before we dive into the content of the presentation, I would like to review a few administrative items. These scoping meetings are intended to inform the public and create a forum for receiving comments. As such, intimidating or disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. We request that all participants show respect to fellow attendees and speakers, especially during the verbal comment and the presentation. We anticipate a large number of verbal comments from our audience during the open forum, and we will be limiting the comments to a 3-minute time frame. Speakers will be chosen by a lottery drawing method. This method will determine the order of comments and provide an unbiased selection of speakers. At this time, I would like to introduce our next speaker, Ms. Ann Brown.
If this is identical to last night, we'll have to try this 3 times before this gets right. Only once today. We live and learn. So thank you all for coming to our public scoping meeting so we can hear comments from the community about what, our draft master plan, and I have already gone off of script, so I'll get back on script. Good evening. My name's Ann Brown. I'm the Medical Center Director here at GLA. So we want to provide veteran housing and enhanced services as soon as possible here at GLA. This is the largest VA campus with the largest veteran homeless population. This is a unique situation that requires unique solutions. VA is methodically evaluating the draft master plan while fulfilling historical and environmental due diligence as required by state and federal laws. Despite some criticism that VA is not going fast enough, significant progress has been made. Today marks a milestone in working through these processes, and we welcome your comments as they relate to the master plan. The proposed action is to evaluate and improve the existing draft master plan in order to develop the most effective use of the West Los Angeles campus for veteran services, particularly for homeless veterans, including underserved populations such as female veterans, aging veterans, and those who are severely physically disabled. Primary considerations for evaluating the existing draft master plan are the provision of appropriate levels of supportive housing on the campus and renovating existing buildings or newly constructed facilities, respect for individual choices on whether to seek housing at the West LA campus or in the local community, the need for appropriate level of bridge and emergency housing along with short-term treatment services on campus to provide the state-of-the-art primary care, mental health, and addiction service to veterans, particularly those who are chronically homeless, and the expansion of the main hospital and healthcare facilities on the campus, including new research laboratories and graduated care facilities for aging veterans. Next. The West Los Angeles Draft Master Plan, adopted by the Secretary of VA in January 2016, supports the revitalization of the 388-acre West Los Angeles campus. This revitalization includes 1,200 units of permanent supportive housing, services promoting health, vocational training, recreation, and family, rehabilitation of historic structures, a town center and amphitheater, and patient care enhancements. In September 2016, the West Los Angeles Leasing Act of 2016, or Public Law 114-226, was enacted, allowing enhanced use leases as the mechanism for VA to work with the private sector to provide permanent supportive housing on the West LA campus. At this time, I'd like to provide some additional information on the Enhanced Use Program with specific focus on the West LA campus. An Enhanced Use Lease, or EUL, is a partnership with the community to provide housing for veterans and families. Before VA can engage in these partnerships, we must first identify, I'm gone one behind. Thank you, I knew it didn't look right. Before VA can engage in these partnerships, we must first identify vacant or underutilized land and/or buildings that can be outleased. Within the EUL partnership, the non-VA entity finances, develops, renovates, and/or constructs and operates the housing facilities and is responsible for the cost of development and operations. VA then refers veterans to the enhanced use lease housing and monitors housing operations. Currently, the West LA campus has several EULs either underway or proposed, as illustrated on the displayed map. These include the existing EUL for Building 209. Don't put that in the record. Which is the purple area right there, purple for Building 209. Upcoming EULs for Building 205 and 208, the blue area. And proposed EULs for MacArthur Field and Buildings 156, 157, and 158. I gave you a peek sneak at that one earlier, now we're here for real. Displayed on the screen is the anticipated phasing timeline for implementation of new permanent supportive housing on the West LA campus for homeless veterans. I'd like to highlight the primary components of the initial phase of development. Beginning with the 12-month section, Building 209 EUL was awarded in January 2017 and will provide 54 units of permanent supportive housing to chronically homeless veterans. The 54 veterans have been identified and are scheduled to move into the building tomorrow. And tomorrow I get to say today, so that's not consistent. Continuing to the, okay guys, it's late, come on. Continuing to the 24-30-month section, the EUL solicitation for buildings 205 and 208 was issued in March 2017. Proposed responses were due in early May and are currently under review. The EUL will provide an additional 100 units of permanent supporting housing to veterans. And finally, closing out the initial phase development with the 30 to 48-month section. New construction on MacArthur Field is anticipated to commence following the EIS that we're here to talk about tonight. This new EUL construction will provide approximately 150 units of permanent supportive housing to include designated units for female veterans with dependents. And additionally, within the same section, the EUL for buildings 156, 157, and 158 is anticipated to commence following the EIS. And this EUL will provide approximately 180 units of permanent supportive housing for chronically homeless veterans. Following the initial phase development and on completion of the EIS, VA will enter into midterm and future development phases, which intend to provide approximately 720 additional units of permanent supportive housing for chronically homeless veterans on the West LA campus. The timeline is conceptual and will be periodically updated and evaluated based on future analysis of the housing demand in the greater Los Angeles area. Within this phasing timeline, the development of permanent supportive housing, two primary contingencies have been identified and will continue to be monitored by our team. The first involves the necessary due diligence to address utility infrastructure issues, environmental and historic preservation analysis, and the second involves the developer's ability to quickly obtain local zoning, permit approvals, and non-VA capital funding from various funding sources. As mentioned earlier, one of the primary considerations of the proposed action is the expansion of the main hospital and healthcare facilities on the campus, including new research laboratories and graduated care facilities for aging veterans. Contemplated improvements include the main hospital building, acute care, ambulatory outpatient care and clinics, centralized research facilities, hospitality for visitors and patients, diagnostic and treatment facilities, and clinical support and services in a modern, state-of-the-art healing environment. Additional enhancements to healthcare will focus on providing a collaborative integration of healthcare, food service, and comprehensive translational research in support of veterans. Thank you all for listening to me, and now I will introduce our next speaker, Mr. Glenn Elliott. And I'll do the clicker for you so you don't get messed up.
Always trying to steal my Red Sox stuff. Must be a fan. Good evening. evening, everybody. My name is Glenn Elliott. I'm the NEPA Implementation Officer for VA. Give me a 12 here. There we go. NEPA, a little bit of background. National Environmental Policy Act of 1969 requires federal agencies to undertake an assessment on environmental effects of their proposed actions to making decisions. Two major purposes of this environmental review process are to better inform decisions and citizen involvement. NEPA, often referred to as the umbrella law, as it encourages integration, compliance with other environmental laws to comprehensively evaluate the proposed action's potential impacts. NEPA documents review, analyze a myriad of environmental laws at the state, federal, and local level to determine potential impacts for the proposed action and alternatives. VA's compliance with NEPA for the West Los Angeles Draft Master Plan will include preparation of an EIS that will be made available for public review and comment. VA's compliance with NEPA for the West Los Angeles campus will end through the preparation of an EIS which meets the compliance and requirements of a NEPA document. CEQA background. Similar to NEPA, the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, is a California-specific statute that requires state and local agencies to identify significant environmental impacts of a proposed action and to avoid or mitigate these potential impacts where possible. CEQA is often conducted in parallel with NEPA documents to develop, as they have similar objectives to identify potential environmental impacts and public review timeframes. CEQA is a state requirement. In cooperation with our state partners, we will ensure that all CEQA regulations and requirements are compiled through our NEPA process. Preparation of an EIR meets the compliance requirements of CEQA. VA is preparing in a combined EIS, EIR for efficiency. NEPA scoping. Scoping is the first formal phase in the NEPA process. Federal agencies are required to perform an early and open process for the public to assist in determining the scope of the issues to be covered in the EIS. The scoping process began with our Notice of Intent, which was published in the Federal Register on May 19, 2017, and contains our intent to prepare the West Los Angeles Campus Draft Master Plan, EIS. The scoping process is the best time to identify issues, determine points of contact, establish project schedules, and provide recommendations to VA. The overall goal is to define the scope of the issues to be addressed in depth in the analysis that will be included in the EIS. Specifically, scoping will identify people or organizations who are interested in the proposed action, significant issues to be analyzed in depth in the EIS, and issues to be eliminated. Issues that have been adequately covered in prior environmental reviews, roles and responsibilities of lead and cooperating agencies, any related NEPA documents, gaps in data, and informational needs. Other environmental review and consultation requirements so they can be integrated with the EIS, and the relationship between the development of environmental analysis and the VA's tentative decision-making schedule. We encourage veterans, veteran organizations, historic and cultural resource groups, affected tribes, local and state government agencies, and the surrounding community to participate. Process flow. This is a high-level overview. Displayed on the screen is a process flow chart providing a high-level outline of the NEPA process, including the use of the NEPA analysis procedures for National Historic Preservation Act, or NHPA, to address the impacts to historic properties. I will focus primarily on the NEPA portions at this time, but Doug Pulak, VA's Deputy Historic Preservation Officer, will review the same flow chart later in the presentation when discussing NHPA. The process began when VA identified a need for action, which is the implementation of the West Los Angeles Draft Master Plan. With the proposed action, VA assessed and determined that significant environmental effects may occur if implemented. The following identification: VA issued the Notice of Intent to prepare the EIS. As the first formal step in the process, VA is hosting tonight's meeting. After reviewing the scoping comments, VA will continue analysis reviews, consultation, and will prepare a draft EIS. The draft EIS will be made available for public review and comment. During the public review period, VA will host a series of public meetings and public open forums to solicit comments on the draft EIS. Following a review of the draft EIS public comments, VA will prepare a final EIS, including responses to comments received on the draft EIS. Final EIS will be made available to the public. The NEPA process concludes with the issue of a record of decision. West Los Angeles campus update. At this time, I'd like to provide several updates on NEPA projects for the West Los Angeles campus. The environmental assessment for Building 209 Enhanced Use Lease, or EUL, has been finalized. The EA for Building 205 and 208 EUL is already moving forward. Additionally, the EA for the Columbary Expansion Project, which will provide approximately 90,000 niches for veterans and their dependents, has been finalized. This will allow the Columbary Expansion Project, which will provide up to 90,000 niches for veterans and their dependents. As mentioned on the previous slide, on May 19, 2017, VA issued its Notice of Intent regarding the West Los Angeles campus draft EIS. Resource areas. The West Los Angeles campus draft master plan EIS will analyze various resource areas in depth, identifying both beneficial and detrimental effects of the proposed action. As mentioned earlier, NEPA is an umbrella law for integrated compliance and other environmental laws to comprehensively evaluate a proposed action's potential impacts. The list displayed on the screen outlines the resource areas under review to include concerns raised by the community such as traffic, noise, and utilities. Here's the list of the different topics and disciplines that will be identified in the EIS document. And there's our umbrella. Proposed alternatives. Identifying, considering, and analyzing alternatives is a key component to the NEPA process for decision making. A range of practicable and reasonable alternatives will be considered for this EIS. Proposed action would involve multiple concurrent and/or subsequent projects to be executed. Currently, VA has identified several potential action alternatives for analysis in the EIS for each grouping. As you review the alternatives, each includes relocation of tenants and services to another existing building. The difference between alternatives A through D are: Alternative A renovates and retrofits existing buildings for a new function. Alternative B renovates and retrofits existing buildings to relocate tenants back into that space. Alternative C demolishes the former building and constructs new buildings. Alternative D demolishes the former buildings with no replacement buildings. Alternative E is the no action or status quo alternative as a basis for the comparison to the action alternatives. Pursuant to NEPA, an agency's preferred alternative is the alternative that the agency believes would fulfill the purpose and need of the proposed actions, considering the economic, environmental, technical, and other factors. At this time, we have not identified a preferred alternative. However, VA will be conducting numerous surveys and studies to inform the analysis in the EIS. From this, VA will identify a preferred alternative that will be included in the draft EIS. Anticipated timeline. Preparing an EIS for the West Los Angeles campus draft master plan will take time to complete. We currently anticipate 24 months timeline for completion. We are actively pursuing opportunities to expedite this timeline. In the upcoming year, VA will be conducting various supplemental and supporting environmental studies and analysis. VA will then prepare a draft EIS, which will be available for public review and comment by the end of 2018. VA will host public meetings on the draft EIS to include a 60-day comment period. At this point in time, I would like to introduce Doug Pulak.
Good evening, I'm Doug Pulak. I'm the Deputy Federal Preservation Officer for the Department of Veterans Affairs. One aspect of NEPA that requires analysis is the potential impacts to cultural resources. Cultural resources are historic properties, paleontological remains, cemeteries, in this case the Los Angeles National Cemetery, parks, archaeological sites, and sacred practices. This EIS will address all impacts to cultural resources evaluated in the draft master plan. The National Historic Preservation Act of 1966, or NHPA, protects our nation's historic properties. A historic property could include a prehistoric or historic district, site, building, structure, or object included in or eligible for inclusion in the National Register of Historic Places, overseen by the National Park Service. Section 106 of the NHPA requires federal agencies to consider how undertakings that they carry out, assist, fund, or permit affect historic properties, and to provide the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, or ACHP, a reasonable opportunity to comment on such undertakings. An undertaking is an action or project. In this case, the undertaking is the implementation of the draft master plan. The goal of the Section 106 process is to identify and consider historic properties that might be affected by an undertaking and to attempt to resolve any adverse effects through consultation. The Section 106 process provides for participation by the State Historic Preservation Office, or SHPO, the ACHP, Native American tribes, representatives from local governments, interested organizations, and private individuals. This consultation effort will continue throughout the development of the EIS. Section 106 requires federal agencies to seek ways to avoid, minimize, or mitigate the effects of their actions on historic properties. But it does not require the federal agency, in this case VA, to choose the alternative least likely to affect historic resources. In the interest of efficiency, completeness, and facilitating public involvement, it is VA's intention to fully incorporate the view procedures for historic properties through substitution of its NEPA analysis. This EIS process will include consideration of NHPA issues, specifically the definition of the undertaking being the implementation of the draft master plan, the definition of the area of potential effect and identification of historic properties, and the definition of the potential effects of the undertaking. The area of potential effect, or APE, for this undertaking is the entire VA site, including the West Los Angeles campus and the Los Angeles National Cemetery. The draft master plan does not include any off-campus construction, and none of the possible construction exceeds current campus building heights. There are no plans for construction activities on the grounds of the Los Angeles National Cemetery as part of the draft master plan, but there could be circulation impacts that need to be analyzed. Historic properties within the APE include the Wadsworth Chapel, the streetcar depot, known archaeological deposits, potential archaeological sites, and the West Los Angeles VA Historic District, including the Los Angeles National Cemetery. The West Los Angeles VA Historic District, listed on the National Register of Historic Places, or the National Register, in 2014 is shown in yellow on this slide, and the most likely property to be affected by the undertaking. The historic district includes many of the campus buildings, but not all, and includes some of the landscape elements and portions of the circulation pattern of the North Campus. Some of the historic district's character-defining features include Victorian, shingle, colonial, Mission, and Mediterranean Revival-style buildings. The The Wadsworth Chapel, also known as the Catholic Protestant Chapels, was listed in the National Register in 1972 and is a contributing element to the historic district. Several of the Wadsworth Chapel's character-defining features include dual sanctuaries and entrances, an arched portico, and is a notable example of the shingle architectural style. Building 66 has several names, including the streetcar depot, newsstand, or the trolley stop. This building was also listed in the National Register in 1972 and is a contributing element to the historic district. The streetcar depot's character-defining features include its arched windows, wood columns, and vertical board cladding. The draft master plan does contemplate moving this building. Previous surveys of the West Los Angeles campus have identified 4 archaeological deposits. The presence of deposits and the location of other archaeological sites nearby suggest more deposits may be located within the campus boundaries. VA will take into account the potential for archaeological sites as part of the EIS, with plans developed in consultation with the SHPO, the ACHP, Native American tribes, and other consulting parties. This table shows the 5 alternatives and identifies potential effects to historic and cultural resources resulting from each alternative. VA is seeking comment on these or any other potential effects to cultural resources that you might suggest. This table is available as a handout in the welcome area and will be posted on VA's draft master plan website. The same process flowchart that Glenn covered earlier is shown again to provide specific focus on the use of NEPA analysis procedures for NHPA to address impacts to historic properties. VA issued the Notice of Intent to prepare an EIS, and at the same time also issued a Notice of Substitution under the NHPA. Along with scoping meetings, we began public outreach to identify consulting parties with an interest in historic preservation. Following analysis, reviews, and consultations, VA will develop a draft EIS that will identify and assess adverse effects to historic properties. The draft EIS will be made available for public review and comment, and VA will work to resolve any adverse effects to historic properties through consultation. Following consultation, VA will prepare a final EIS, which will contain the mitigation or agreement document for adverse effects to historic properties. VA is pleased to be partnering with the 1887 Fund, a federally recognized nonprofit organization, to restore 5 buildings on the West Los Angeles campus: the Wadsworth Chapel, the Governor's Mansion, the Superintendent's Home, the Streetcar Depot, and Hoover Barracks. Now I'd like to turn the podium back to Mr. Ian Musa.
Thanks, Doug. Good evening, folks. Again, my name is Ian Musa. Cover a few more slides, and then we'll get into the comment period. VA will be updating the Draft Master Plan website linked through VA's Greater Los Angeles Medical Center webpage to provide frequently asked questions, VA partnerships both on and off campus, master plan and NEPA and HPA documents and information, public hearing information, and town hall information. The Draft Master Plan webpage provides veterans, community partners, and the general public with a one-stop shop for centralized Draft Master Plan information, updates on progress, and next steps. For scoping, VA encourages the community to submit public comments on consideration for the development of the draft EIS. A reminder that the public comment period will conclude on June 30th, 2017. As mentioned earlier, public comments can be submitted several ways. In-person comments, public comments can be shared during the scoping meeting either verbally or via written comment card. You can mail your comments to the address listed on the screen. Or you can email your comments to vha.gla.masterplan@va.gov. This concludes our formal presentation. At this time, participants are invited to provide comments on consideration for the draft EIS. Please note the following logistics. Time limit. In anticipation of a large number of verbal comments, VA will limit attendees to a 3-minute time frame. Lottery system. Speakers will be chosen by a lottery drawing method which determines the order of comments to provide an unbiased selection of speakers. Name. Before making a public comment, we ask that you please announce your name. Finally, as a reminder, comments should be limited to those related to the EIS. Questions or comments relating to benefits, healthcare, or other issues should be addressed at the appropriate table in the atrium. Now we will begin the public comment period. A05, if you would just stand up if your ticket is called. A05. We have rovers that'll bring a mic to you. A05?
Yes. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to share our thoughts about, as a veteran, sharing and our input with what you guys are doing. I really appreciate that. I wish there was more attendance. I don't know what happened, but I did get it through my phone, which was a text or email, and I'm just happy that I got that because I believe it's very important that we all participate in sharing our thoughts about issues pertaining to this land here. Again, funding for the project, I don't know, I haven't heard what the funding, a rough idea. Of course, we don't know the total amount, but I'd like to know if that is discussed. And again, 20, 30 years is a long time. Again, better late than never. And I just want to know, is it going to be run by a government agency? Is it going to be run by the VA? Is it going to be private donations? Or is it going to be where veterans continue to have input on what's going on in reference to the land here? And again, that's basically what I wanted to share with you. And again, I just want to thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak my thoughts, even though I'm not much of a writer. But I will say this, it's important we share our thoughts and participate as a veteran because we haven't had a voice in over 40 years. And I just want to thank you for this opportunity, and I hope we find another way to get the word out when you do have these master plan meetings, and hopefully we can get a better outcome and participation to listen to what you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, and I think we appreciate your comment. We have audio being recorded here, so we'll definitely capture that. Very thankful for you addressing it here in this forum. Next up is A07.
Hi, I'm Lauren Cole. I'm the Transportation Chair to the Brentwood Community Council. I was not able to make the meeting that you had at the BCC the other night since I was out of town, but I did get some comments and feedback from people at the meeting. We have put together, and we had previously put together a subcommittee on transportation issues just to work with the VA as you're developing the plan, so we look forward to being able to work with you. The BCC members are fully supportive of any sort of housing and services needed by veterans. Our concern is obviously about the transportation issues, so we look forward to working with you to develop and to give input into any kind of transportation plan. We will put together scoping comments based on, we've done a number of other EIRs in the area, and so we have good ideas of what the usual traffic impacts are and some of the suggestions that have been made in other, with other EIRs. Some of the specific things that we'd like to be able to work with you on are exit gates to the extent that there are alternatives, things that won't impact the community during peak hours, any sort of plans that would help get workers stagger shifts so that people aren't all arriving and leaving during peak hours, and obviously plans that would encourage people that are working here to carpool to get here or take public transportation. The other issue that I know is a sensitive one, but something that we are kind of looking ahead at is when the purple line stop is here, and during the period that there's a stop here and there isn't one at Bundy, the stop at Bundy, which is the next stop, is not yet funded, although we would love to get it into Measure R. It is not currently an identified stop, but as long as there is a purple line terminus here, we need to figure out some way to work with you that people can actually access the stop without disrupting your community or our community with all the traffic. I understand that there may be some challenges. We can't perhaps have parking on the grounds, but some way that there would be parking nearby and allow people to access easily the grounds without disrupting. And that includes not only people, but also people on cars, but also bicycle access is another thing that's a big issue, since it's almost impossible to bike around Wilshire Boulevard, so anything that we can work with you guys on. But those are the sorts of issues that we want to be able to address when we are able to sit down with our committee and you guys. So thank you for—
Terrific, thank you very much. A04. A04. All right. A03. A03. A08. Presentation must have answered everything. A08. All right. A06.
Hi, my name is Marcy Polier-Swartz, and I'm president of Village for Vets, which is the neighborhood, the surrounding neighborhood community support group for the West LA VA. And we've just launched a year ago, January. This is our second year, and we're very proud of everything we've been doing. We're really building. We helped to volunteer today with the move-in, and I especially want to thank Jennifer Turchin, who just arrived, who supplied almost all of the move-in materials that were used today. My comments are also, I want to echo what Lauren said, that we are just, our board and our group is fully behind the plans of the VA, and we're so heartened and really moved by everything that's been going on. With respect to the veterans that are here, we understand the pain and anguish that they've been feeling all these years. The community has also been feeling that. There's a lot of pent-up desire on the part of the community to step forward now, and we're just so happy that we have partners to work with and that we're being welcomed with open arms. The comment I wanted to make is in regard to the Veterans Park. I know that there's still a little bit of misunderstanding and disappointment on the part of the community with regard to the plans for the Veterans Park, and someone on our board has stepped forward with the dog program. She has previously trained dogs to wake up vets with PTSD before they have nightmarish episodes, and she's got a program that we're working on, and we hope to, I'm using this forum to just announce that, because I too have just returned from a vacation and I missed the BCC meeting. So we look forward to submitting that to you and possibly working together and finding a home for it, if not at Veterans Park, then somewhere. And we have more programs like that coming. Thanks.
Terrific. Thanks, Marcy. That exhausts our lottery selection for questions. So at this time, we'll open it up more broadly. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and we'll have a rover with a mic come out to you.
I'm sorry, I did forget to mention about the transitional housing and the percentage rate right now at the beginning of helping our veterans find a place to live. They're basically at 30%, and I think some of the property here that you're housing our veterans have even went up to 40%. Now I'm just thinking down the road with these new units that are coming into play, is the percentage of the amount of money that they're going to be living in these quarters here going to go up to 50% or more down the future? Because right now, you know, our veterans are living on a certain income and depending on their severity of injuries and the disability that they're receiving. So my question to you is, down the road, is it going to go higher than 50%? Because, you know, our veterans need money to buy other things. So I just want to hope you keep this in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Oh, one back here, Charles.
Hi, my name is Yvette Kim from Senator Portantino's office. I have two questions. One, what kind of helps or needs do VA has for legislators? And my second question is, are there any veterans organizations or any nonprofit organizations that will be residing in the West LA campus?
Thank you. And I believe we can chat with you separately afterwards if we'll maintain focus on the EIS, but definitely interested in partnering with you and identifying areas of opportunity. So happy to chat with you after the meeting. Thank you. Any additional comments? Last call, comments? All right, well, thanks everybody. Really appreciate you coming out. If you're interested, we're going to do it again tomorrow at 8:30 a.m., so we'd welcome you then as well. Otherwise, have a great night.